So welcome to the People Performance Podcast, where we discuss all things people performance. The People Performance Podcast is made up of 3 series. First up, we have the Leader Lounge episodes with me, the founder. Then we have the guest interview episodes. And finally, we have the performance episodes delivered by the T2 consultants. If, after listening to our podcast, you want to get in touch with T2 about anything we do, please contact us at help@trans2performance.com. You can stream or listen to our podcast on all the usual platforms available. So for now, sit back, tune in, and enjoy the People Performance Podcast. So welcome to another Leader Lounge episode with me, Martin Johnson, the founder of T2. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about sense of purpose. Now, in previous episodes, I've talked about purpose when I talked about the 3 core functions of human existence: survival, reproduction, and purpose. We talked a lot around how that governs the pain and pleasure system and how, therefore, all human motivation is towards pleasure, purpose, or away from pain, survival. But sense of purpose is something different. And I talk to a lot of people about this because a purpose is different to a sense of purpose. They're 2 things, but they are intrinsically linked. And so all of you watching this should have a purpose, or you are trying to establish what your purpose is. But behind that, there should be a deep-seated sense of purpose which is driving it. So let me explain a little bit more. It's probably a good thing to start with the definitions. So if you think about purpose, as I previously explained on the last episode, your purpose is the role you are carrying out. It's your role or roles that give you fulfillment and reward. So this is where you've gone, my purpose is to run a business and build a successful business. Or my purpose is to be a volunteer and make a difference in the world, or to start a charity, or to be a mother or father, or to write a book and be an author and change people's lives, or to coach a sports team, or whatever it might be. Your purpose is the roles you have prioritized and defined that are going to give you your sense of contribution to the world, if this makes sense. So purpose, and I'll come back to why I think some people struggle with establishing that purpose in the first place, but purpose is the role or the roles which you are focusing on that will give you reward and validation back, and therefore giving you purpose. Your sense of purpose, however, is the reason why you're going to offer a significant contribution required to achieve your purpose and make it successful. It's almost like the driving force behind why you will not give up, why you will go through the tough times, and why you will make it work. It's your sense of purpose. It's the meaning and connection behind the drive to deliver the purpose. And I'm going to talk to you about the 4 categories of sense of purpose that we observe and capture in human beings shortly. But coming back to purpose, the problem we have in modern day life is that if you go back to hunter-gatherers and early man, you can see that there is probably, when it came to purpose and roles, there was probably 5 or 6 different roles you could have within a tribe. You was either the leader, the hunter, the caregiver, the forager. You was maybe the protector. You was maybe the mother to the offspring. You had a clearly defined role within the tribe. And so they organized themselves. But when you had that role, that was your role day in, day out. It was very simplified. There was probably 1 or 2, and you did them exceptionally well. And that gave you your sense of how I contribute within the tribe. But I believe modern day humans, and I write about this in Pain and Pleasure, is I think we're suffering from role overload. So if you think about the possible roles of a modern day human compared to what I just described. So today we have to be really good at many things. We're taking on so many roles and responsibilities. For example, we have our jobs. We have to be a good husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. We have to be a son, daughter, a father, a mother, a grandparent, an uncle, an aunt, a cousin. We have to be a hobbyist, right? We might be a sports coach. We take on so many different roles, and we're doing so many different things that we're diluting our ability to do any of them really well. And so when I speak to people who feel like they're failing or they don't feel like they have purpose, it's not because they don't have the mechanisms and the roles and responsibilities to give them purpose. It's because they're not prioritizing the one, two, or three things and dedicating their time to those. They're being spread too thinly across multiple things. And as a result, it's diluting their ability to do any of them well, which then has the opposite effect. They don't feel like they have purpose. In fact, they feel like they're failing. The amount of men, for example, who I speak to say, I feel like I'm not a good husband. I feel like I'm not a good father because I don't spend enough time with the kids. I'm not climbing the ranks in my job, and I've been in my job now for 5, 6, 7 years, and I feel like it's dead end and I'm not thriving in my career. I don't have time to socialize with my friends. I'm not looking after myself and going to the gym, X, Y, and Z. And they say, so I don't have purpose. And I say, so you see, you do. You're just not prioritizing what your purpose truly is and what you're sacrificing and trading off. So purpose is your roles. And my first advice to anybody listening to this podcast is if that sounds like you need to make some decisions and prioritize 2 or 3 things that you're going to go all in on. And then you'll start to feel the purpose around them rather than being spread too thinly with role overload. So coming back to sense of purpose, however, because this is what the main bit of the podcast is, if we're going to achieve success in those purpose and role and endeavors, we need to have a reason as to why we're motivated to do so. What is it that's going to drive us forward when the going gets tough and stay in the fight to be able to overcome obstacles and challenges? So when we interview people, we ask a lot of questions, and we ask the principle of 5 whys. So if someone says, I want to be a millionaire, I say, why? And they say, well, I want financial freedom. And I go, why? And they have to go deeper and deeper and deeper until we get to what we call sense of purpose. There's lots of different analogies and examples of this, as you can imagine. But what we've done is we've bucketed them into 4 categories of sense of purpose. I'm going to talk you through these, and I hope maybe you can start to think about what's your driving force. What's your sense of purpose? The first category we come across is to prove. To prove. Now, this is full of examples of people who want to prove something. So people talk about wanting to prove a point, prove somebody right, somebody who maybe showed faith in them and spent a lot of time and gave them every opportunity. So they want to prove that person's faith right. They talk about proving somebody wrong. The old school teacher who said you'll never amount to anything. Or when a parent says, why can't you be more like your brother or sister? And so you think, I'll show you. When a human being wants to prove somebody wrong, it's an incredibly powerful sense of purpose. It never really goes away. People talk about proving their worth for whatever reason. They've placed a lower value on their self-worth, or somebody else may have done, right? So it's about proving my worth. And some people just talk about wanting to prove something to themselves. Maybe they haven't felt like they've done their best, or they've let themselves down in the past and they're trying to make amends. So they want to prove to themselves that they can do it. So the first category is to prove. And if you're listening to this and thinking, what's my driver, my root origin of sense of purpose as to why I get up every day and I'm trying to achieve my goals and get fulfillment from my roles and my ambitions and my endeavors? Is it to prove something to yourself, to somebody else, or to prove a point? It can be an immensely powerful sense of purpose. The second category is to provide. To provide. Now, this is, remember I talk about that reproduction, and then you get your tribe and your offspring. There's an enormous sense of you need to provide for that tribe. Some people talk about they just want security and safety. So it's not about the big grand achievements. It's not about, running businesses, being millionaires, being famous. It's literally about doing enough and being driven to do enough to provide for them and their family and provide the basic level of security and safety. Some people go a little bit further and they say, I want to provide an increased standard of living for mine. Whether you came from nothing or whatever it might be, you're going, I want a standard of living and standard of experiences. So I've got a deep-seated sense of purpose to provide that again for myself and my tribe. And others talk about actually providing an opportunity for their tribe. So if I achieve my endeavors and I'm successful in my purpose, it creates opportunity for those behind me. But the second category of sense of purpose people talk about is to provide, primarily security, safety, but standard of living and opportunity as well. The third category we come across in sense of purpose is achieve. So this is slightly different, where people want to achieve something tangible. They want to achieve a legacy, for example, which is, I want to leave the world in a better place than I found it. I want to leave a legacy for other people to carry on. It's often about humanistic or world achievements, or, doing something that makes a difference for the many. Some people talk about achieving status. They want to get to a position, or a position of influence, whether that's rising the ranks in your career, whether that's going through, being a politician, whether that's just reaching a status within your friendship group and seen as an influential person in group and power dynamics. But some people have a sense of purpose to achieve status. Results, personal achievements, accolades. People go through universities to get that PhD or that degree because nobody can take that away from me. So that drive to achieve results, which are personal to me, or meaning, just to make a difference somehow to someone. So the third category is achieve, and that's about a tangible sense of purpose to achieve something that's visible, measurable, tangible, and that will make a difference. And finally, the final category is sense of purpose, which I don't mind sort of sharing is my sense of purpose, is what I resonate with, is to avoid. To avoid failure, embarrassment, struggle, or scarcity. This primarily can be born out of hardships or struggle, but it's where there's a deep-seated driver in you to say, I will not go back to having nothing, or I will not struggle. And when you have a sense of purpose to avoid, it can go one or two ways. It can result in, when you're in your early life, in anger and resentment, and it can go down the wrong path. But if channeled and harnessed, it can be an incredibly powerful sense of purpose in an individual, because when they say, I refuse to struggle or fail, it's no option for me to fail, and I will not have scarcity or poverty or whatever it might be, or I will not go back to a memory that doesn't serve me well. Then there's an old saying, if you want to take the island, you need to burn your boats. And that is a simple sort of analogy of the person with a sense of purpose to avoid. There's no option to fail, right? And so to avoid is a deep-seated driver that a lot of people talk to me about. And what's really strange is, no matter how successful you get, how much money you get, how much freedom of time and choice you get, that desire to never go back to struggle and scarcity never goes away. It's a strange thing. It's why you'll often get the multimillionaire who's already made it, but they are relentless and they will not stop. It's still there in them, that fear of, what if it all went wrong? What if this happens? And so it can be an incredibly powerful sense of purpose. And so, to summarize on this episode, and it's a really deep topic, and I've probably got you thinking there about a million things, and you might resonate with two or three of those categories. But purpose is your role. It's the things you are focusing on that give you fulfillment and reward. And remember what I said earlier. In modern day life, we're struggling with role overload. So we're doing many things not very well. My message to you is, I would implore you to reflect on that and pick two or three things that give you purpose that you're going to go all in on, even if you have to sacrifice some of the others. It's quite a strange thing, but some of the people who have the greatest purpose that I've met are quite selfish people. When I mean selfish, I mean they're not scared to say, I can't do everything at the same time, but I can do two or three things that are important to me incredibly well. So first of all, establish your purpose and go all in on it. Secondly, try to connect with what your sense of purpose is. So for me, my purpose is really simple. It's my family, my wife and my children, and it's my business and the people who work within my business and the customers who we serve. And I will go all in on those two things. And anything else outside of that, I have to make some trade-offs and some sacrifices. My sense of purpose that allows me to dedicate my time and make it that a success for those two things is to avoid failure, embarrassment, or struggle, and to avoid my family ever not having what they need in life. And so that fire burns daily, which is why I'm going to offer the significant contribution required to achieve my purpose. So think about what that means for you. Think about what yours is. Think about if you're trying to prove a point right now to somebody because someone wrote you off. Are you trying to provide for your tribe? Are you trying to achieve something personally for you, something tangible in the world maybe? Or are you trying to avoid something? Whatever that is, connect with it because it's unique to you. And that is the reason you will keep on keeping on when things get tough and for no other reason whatsoever. That's the reason your sense of purpose is important to you. And I always ask people to try and connect with it. So hopefully that's been informative. You won't come to an answer straight away. It's not an exact science. You might have to reflect. And if you want to explore it, put some comments in, get in touch with us. There's more stuff we've done here at T2 on sense of purpose. And actually, I talk about sense of purpose in my first book, I Am Human, 30 Mistakes to Success. There's a whole chapter on it there. But that's all for now. Think about it and reflect on it. And I look forward to speaking to you on another Leader Lounge episode soon.
The Leader Lounge with Martin Johnson, brought to you by T2.